Have you ever had a moment where you stopped and thought, what am I even doing with my life? Maybe you've got the perfect 5-year plan. Maybe you've got color-coded calendars, vision boards, and daily affirmations. Or maybe you're just waking up each day and seeing where the wind takes you, and people call you crazy for that. But here's the real question. Is living without a plan truly madness? Or could it actually be the beginning of real freedom? Let's take a deep breath and explore this through the eyes of Jiddu Krishnamurti, a man who questioned everything, even the very idea of having a path. Krishnamurti once said, "To understand the immeasurable, the mind must be extraordinarily quiet, still." But can a mind filled with plans, projections, deadlines, and expectations ever be truly still? Can it ever be present? We live in a culture obsessed with control. We're told from childhood to plan everything, our careers, our relationships, even our happiness. We're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? When we're barely old enough to tie our own shoes. That question isn't really about curiosity. It's about fitting into a system. It's about certainty, predictability, security. But life is none of those things. Krishnamurti challenged the very foundation of this. He wasn't anti-discipline or against responsibility, but he questioned the psychological dependence on planning, as if our identity, our value, our worth were all tied up in a future that hasn't even happened yet. Let's say you have a plan, a big one. It makes you feel safe. You know what comes next. Step A leads to step B, which gets you to step C. That's how we've been taught to live. But what happens when life throws something at you that doesn't fit the plan? A breakup, a job loss, a global pandemic. Suddenly, the whole system falls apart. And so do we. Why? Because we weren't taught how to live with uncertainty. Krishnamurti invites us to sit in that uncertainty. Not just tolerate it, but live in it. To observe it without fear, without judgment. He says that real intelligence, real creativity, real life happen only when the mind is free from the known. Now that's a radical idea, because the known is comfortable. It's our schedule, our goals, our ambitions. The known is everything we cling to when the world feels shaky, but the moment you let go of it, even just a little, you open a door to something else, something alive. Think about the last time something unexpected happened and it turned out better than you ever planned. Maybe you missed a flight and met someone who changed your life. Maybe you got rejected from a job and ended up building your own business. In those moments, there was no script, no plan, just presence, attention, listening. Krishnamurti believed that true freedom is the absence of psychological bondage. And one of the biggest chains we wrap around our minds is the future. Not just tomorrow, but the imagined future we use to escape this moment. He once said, "Freedom is not at the end of the evolution of man. It lies in the first step of his existence." That means it's not something we plan our way into. It's something we choose right now, in this breath. So what does that look like in real life? Does it mean you quit your job, sell your stuff, and wander into the forest? Not necessarily. It means you begin to observe the planner in your mind, the voice that's constantly trying to calculate, secure, and guarantee outcomes. You watch it, not with resistance, not with shame, but with deep awareness. Because awareness, Krishnamurti says, is the beginning of transformation. Not effort, not willpower, just seeing clearly. And when you see clearly, something interesting happens. You begin to act from intelligence, not habit, from clarity, not fear, from freedom, not programming. Let's be honest. Living without a rigid plan sounds liberating, but it can also feel terrifying. The mind wants to know what's next. It craves direction. But have you ever noticed that even your most well-crafted plans rarely go exactly the way you imagined? Life is far more creative than we are. So what if, just what if, we allowed life to unfold without trying to dominate it? What if we moved not with a map, but with a compass, guided not by certainty, but by awareness? That's not recklessness, that's presence. That's not apathy, that's attention. And that's not madness. That just might be the first taste of actual freedom. Now let's ground this a little more, because let's be real, we're not living in caves. We have rent, responsibilities, deadlines. You might be thinking, Krishnamurti sounds profound, but how do I live without a plan in a world that demands one? And that's a fair question. But here's the thing. Krishnamurti never said to abandon responsibility. What he questioned was psychological dependency, the inner need for certainty, the fear that drives our obsession with control. Living without a rigid plan doesn't mean living without direction. It means we stop confusing control with clarity. It means we stop mistaking busyness for intelligence. See, the problem with most of our plans isn't that they're practical. It's that they're driven by fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of being left behind. We build elaborate futures not because we're free, but because we're scared. And when fear is driving the car, even the best roadmap leads us somewhere false. Krishnamurti often emphasized the importance of choiceless awareness, a state of observing life as it is, without trying to twist it into what we think it should be. That's hard to do when we're trapped in timelines and strategies. When we're always asking, what's next, we forget to ask, what is? He challenged us to live with alertness, not ambition. That doesn't mean ambition is wrong. It just means it shouldn't own you. Because once you're owned by your goals, you stop seeing what's real. You only see what fits into the plan. So let's try something together. Ask yourself right now, what would it be like if just for today, you didn't try to control the outcome? Not in a reckless way, not in a lazy way, but with full awareness. What if instead of rushing toward the next thing, you actually listened to your surroundings, to your body, to your thoughts, without immediately trying to fix or manage them? What would it feel like to let life show you what it is, before you demand that it become what you want? That space, Krishnamurti would say, is where freedom begins. Now you might still wonder, but without a plan, how do I know I'm not wasting time? And that's the trap. That's the exact conditioning Krishnamurti warned us about. We've been taught to measure life in outcomes, to label time as productive or wasted. But life isn't a project. It's not a task to complete. It's an unfolding. And you can't waste what you're fully present for. Think about a child playing. They're not planning. They're not thinking, this will help my resume someday. They're alive, curious, engaged. That's not immaturity. That's wisdom we've forgotten. Krishnamurti once said, the moment you have in your heart this extraordinary thing called love and feel the depth, the delight, the ecstasy of it, you will discover that for you the world is transformed. Love here doesn't mean romance. It means attention, intimacy with the now. That's not something you plan for. That's something you step into, moment by moment. So how do we live this way in a world that seems to demand plans? By shifting the quality of our attention. By acting when it's necessary, not because we're afraid to pause. By trusting that clarity comes not from predicting the future, but from fully meeting the present. You can still show up for work, pay your bills, care for your family, but you do it from presence, not panic, from fluidity, not force. And when things don't go the way you expected, which they often won't, you're not destroyed. Because your peace was never built on a plan, it was built on awareness. That's what Krishnamurti pointed to. A life not dictated by fear, a mind not divided by past and future, a heart not caged by what should be. So no, living without a plan isn't madness, it's not apathy, it's not chaos. It's a return to simplicity, to awareness, to trust. Not trust in some external force, but in your own capacity to meet life, raw and real, as it unfolds. And maybe, just maybe, that's where true freedom begins. So, let's come back to the question we started with. Is living without a plan madness, or is it freedom? The truth is, it depends on how you define living. If living means staying safe, doing what's expected, chasing achievements just to avoid feeling like a failure, then sure, a plan might feel like a lifeline. But if living means being fully awake to this moment, responding with clarity rather than reacting out of fear, then maybe freedom begins when we let go of needing everything figured out. Krishnamurti wasn't telling us to throw our lives into chaos. He was asking us to see, to really see, how often we live like machines, always chasing the next thing, terrified of not arriving somewhere. But where is that somewhere, really? The future is always an idea. The past is always a memory. Only this moment is real. And when you stop clinging to the future, even for a second, you meet life face to face, without filters, without expectations, without plans. And that kind of living, that's not madness. That's presence. That's intelligence. That's peace. So maybe it's not about never making plans. Maybe it's about not being owned by them. Maybe it's about holding them lightly and being willing to change, adapt, and even let go when life asks you to. Because life is not linear. It's not a checklist. It's not a race. It's something far more mysterious, far more alive. And when you stop trying to control it, just enough, you begin to participate in it. Fully, honestly, freely. So the next time someone tells you, you need a plan, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, do I need a plan, or do I need to be present? That answer might change everything.